Hey guys, my name is Liam and you're watching Jeep Sheep TV. Today we're going to be talking about my 1994 Jeep Wrangler YJ. This is part 2 of a series where we are repairing parts of the rusty frame. In this episode we're going to be covering the all too common rust area, which is right below the rear shackle mount. I started this project thinking that I was going to be putting a patch on here and then somehow ended up replacing 75% of my frame. So let's just jump right in.
Alright.
Here's the situation, but to explain how we got here, I need to tell you a quick little story first. Now my videos are terribly out of order, so bear with me for just a minute. In 2021, my friend Brent and I took our ambulance and flat-towed the Wrangler all the way to Moab for Easter Jeep Safari. While there, we were convinced to take it on trails that the Jeep's just not properly equipped for.
But we're taking this YJ on 31s up Moab Rim. Yeah!
And as a result, it spent a lot of time on its skid plate, leaf springs, and rear bumper. All of the trauma led to a large split starting to form in the back of the frame, one that I couldn't fix by jumping on it. But that didn't deter us. We continued through the week, which ended with the Gone Jeepin' group trail ride, for which we cooked stew off the engine.
Now we're with Liam Lafferty from Jeep Sheep TV and GoneJeepin.com. So this is the famous YJ. You'll notice that it's a little rough, right?
I've had a lot more confidence this week because Greg took me through Moab Rim and Hell's Revenge at night. And although there's a little bit of damage that we've encountered, it did it. And I'm so impressed with this Jeep.
The added abuse did not fare well for the frame, however. But again, not deterred by the twisted bumper, I drove the Jeep from Moab all the way to Arizona and left it there for like 6 months. Then my wife and I flew out, hopped in the Jeep, and drove it across the country and hit all the great parks on the way home. Months after the great adventure, we need to do something about this frame. I started this project thinking I was just going to be installing some patch panels at the back of the frame, so I started by removing this problematic bumper, which is made easier by removing the gas tank that has to come out anyway. Not owning a floor jack made this a bit of a complicated task. As you can probably tell by this video, it did not come off without a fight. There's the rusty bumper. Oh my gosh. It's not good. Let's check out the bolts. Yep. Broken. Just about all of them. I think I saved 2 in total. But these ones, these are really interesting. They have little bits of wire welded to them. They were holding on the bumperettes here and here, over there. Yeah, these goofy wires. This one's coiled. That one does a spiral-y thing. And that one's perfectly straight. No idea what happened there, or what the reason for that is. If you know, maybe it's a factory thing. Who knows? maybe not. But let me know. There's the OEM bumper. And here's the carnage. Look at this. Oh my gosh. On my patch panel, there's a hole right here. But on the frame, there's not. And this is the problem. It gets full of dirt and mud, and all of that holds moisture and just destroys the inside of this thing. You can see real far in there. Yeah. This is very much not a good thing. Let's check out the other side. So in here, this really crappy weld, that was done by me a while back when I had the tank in there, and this was really hard to get to, so forgive my super boogery welds. The welder I was using also was not great either, but no excuse for poor workmanship, right? And down here, I did a much better job down here. Actually, some of my better work from that time period. But these are patch panels that I put in right here and here, and then weld and a weld up there. And that feels really good, nice and solid. I mean, it's fresh. That just fell out. But when we look in here, you can see there's another patch panel. Just a little guy. And you can see all the wire that blew through. Oh my gosh, look at all the wire, the welding wire. That's crazy. So that is because I kept encountering rust, and it would just blow right on through the metal, and then the wire would catch something that wasn't rust, and then it would break off. There you have it. That's what it looks like. Tell your friends.
Yeah, that looks pretty bad. I think we're going to go a different direction.
I have made the executive decision that I'm going to cut the frame right here. And we have a whole other frame that we're going to splice in right there, because all of that looks pretty darn good. And all of that looks pretty darn not. So here's the new frame, which is going to go in there. This frame is absolutely gorgeous. It's off a 1993 YJ that got in an accident really early on and then never saw the road again. So the whole front half of this is kind of trash, but the back half is worth its weight in gold for sure. Greg at Unofficial Use Only, he's the one that gave this to me, and I'm eternally grateful for him doing that. He also is kind of an expert on stretching frames or really building Jeeps in general. So if you watch his video where he stretches a TJ by a lot, he uses an internal tube that gives it a lot of strength, and it also allows him to hide some of the work that's been done, so you think it might be factory. In his video, he used a 2" by 3", and he split the 3" and then made it bigger, so it was essentially like 2 C-channels. I don't have a 2 by 3" tube. I do have a 2 by 2 and another 2 by 2. So what I did is I cut 1/4 of an inch off of this, and I'll be welding those two together. This is going to be unbelievably strong. And then, let's see if I can do this with one hand. You slide that on the inside of the frame, and then it will go on the inside of the other half of the frame, like so. Now we gotta do just a little bit of science here. So, this is the idea. The frame is straight from here to here, and it's straight up and down and side to side. Nice straight piece of frame. We are going to be cutting this and then putting a tube on the inside of the frame, and which is going to be straight. So this needs to be straight. We want to measure how big that distance is. So this right here is where it stops being straight. Inboard, outboard. You can see it starts to bend here. And this right here is where it stops being straight, up, down. From right here, maybe about the middle of this body mount. Here to here is 7 inches. So 3.5 inches, that's where you'd ideally want to cut it, so that way you can have equal distance, or as much distance on each side with that inner piece. The problem is, that's inconvenient because the body mount's here. We'll have to cut that off and weld it back on. The alternative is that we can cut it right here, and it shortens it on this side by 3/4 of an inch. But we can cut it right here, and we should be just fine. So I think that's what we're going to do, and then we don't have to weld this body mount back in. It's nice and solid. I don't really want to mess with it. So we're going to cut right along the edge here, and that is where the frame is going to come apart. Okay guys, we're about to cut the frame, but before we do so, let's talk about safety real quick. I've got a lot of fail-safes going in on this because most of my equipment is either really old and breaking or not of the highest quality. So we try to take a lot of precautions as a result. We are going to be cutting the frame there-ish, and when doing so, the back half of the frame is going to need to be suspended. So I've made these blocks. These are also going to help me to line up the new frame because they're going to be the correct height. But the weight of the frame will sit on that block and that one at the end there. Now, as we're cutting it, I have a bottle jack which is going to be supporting the frame temporarily so I can lower the weight onto these blocks slowly rather than just have it kind of drop onto them. The engine mount is right here, which means the weight of the engine is right here, and our jack stand is right there. Notice we still got the wheel on, but we have a jack stand here, so we're not going to allow the spring to move up and down at all. This is going to control the system a lot better, and the weight of the engine is closer to here than it is to the front of the vehicle. So another worry I had was I cut here and the front of the vehicle just goes whoop, but it's not likely to happen because there's really no weight that way. But there's a lot of weight right here, which is going to be closer, and it's on the other side of our pivot point being the wheel. So it's going to want to roll this way, which we have a jack stand for. The body is hovering above all of this, and it's on this piece of wood here, which is arguably kind of sketchy, but our fail-safe is that we have this 2-inch body lift puck shoved in here, and if the body falls, it's going to hit that before it does any real damage. Then we have back here, which is a bit more robust, we have this little truss system here, which is holding up, and you can't see that, holding up the body underneath like that. But because all of that's kind of scary, we have a high lift jack at the back holding up the body as well, just in case. And the same little wood supports on the other side of the frame and for the body. That being said, we should be relatively safe that no one's getting crushed. The other thing that we did is, or that I did I guess, is I went underneath the frame and I cut the inside of the frame, or at least on this side. I'll do the same on the other. I did that first because I don't want my last cut where the weight of the frame is transferred from the rest of the frame to the wood. I don't want that to happen while I'm under the vehicle. So that part is done, and everything else I will be able to do safely from the exterior of the vehicle where the frame is less likely to hurt me. Let's get started. All right, there it is. So once finally separating the frame, it just kind of plinked backwards just a little bit, and you can see a nice gap there. And that was about the extent of the excitement. So now I'm going to lower the bottle jack so the weight is on my wood blocks. That should be on that block now. Oh yeah, look at that. I can wiggle the whole thing quite a bit if I grab this. So now is the part where we got to be really careful because we don't want this wiggling and hurting somebody. Free. We did it. Oh, brother.
Wait, I know what you're thinking. Didn't we already see that frame? Wasn't it already cut? Yeah, you did. It was. Like all things, this video is kind of out of order. It made a lot more sense to explain to you how we're doing it with the visual blah blah blah. Anyway, I'm going to take this moment to talk to you about something that's kind of cool from this project. So you can see me here picking up the frame and struggling to get it into my small garage. When I started this, because I work an office job, I just kind of atrophy a little bit and wasn't very strong because I haven't been doing a lot of physical activity. This frame was really heavy to me here in this scene. And as I had to pick it up and move it and pick it up and paint it and grind it and cut it, it was really fun to see just how much lighter the frame felt as time went on, even after I actually added some weight to it. So, quick little plug for working in the garage is good for you, I guess. Okay, so I don't really know how you feel about this song, but I chose it because I thought it was kind of funny, and it's just kind of fun. I'm really trying not to overcomplicate this project, but there's a chance that I am. So in the comments, tell me below what you think. Are we overcomplicating this project? Yay! Or is this just what it takes? At this point, I've run out of space in the garage, so I guess we're grinding in the snow.
Okay, this is wicked cool. So here's my old frame, and I've just sectioned it out, and I'm cutting off of these side rails here. I love these. They're awesome. My friend made them for me. He did a wonderful job, and even welded them onto the frame for me, which of course is harder than removing a bolt-on accessory, but you know what? They came off. But this is what's really cool. If you look right here, this is probably like 5 to 6 years ago. We ground down the frame and we welded these on, and you can still see the bare steel right here, just as if we ground it down with a flat disc like, I don't know, yesterday. So that's just one way you can tell that he did a really good job at sealing this whole area here. Not any bit of air or moisture got in, and that is just raw steel that's been lasting throughout the years and the adventures. Now, the one thing that we are going to improve from what happened this last time is you can kind of tell the frame is bulged right here. You can really see it right here, this split. We had these tiny little tabs that acted as support, and really the intention was if you put a lot of weight on it and wants to flex down, it wanted to bend this tube. Well, really what we ran into was I hit this on rocks and it pushed upwards. So what I'm going to do this next time around is I'm going to do some larger gussets, kind of like these. They're going to come down and get the strength of this bottom part of the frame as well, so that way we don't have splitting here and all that force being concentrated on one little area like we see here. But all in all, really, really cool. This one, a little bit of oxidation in there, so some moisture was able to get in, but really not bad either. Super cool. I'm excited to have these on my new frame as well. got my first rock slider put back onto this frame. And like I said, we were doing the gussets like before. I warn you, some of these welds are unbelievably terrible. But if you're new to welding, here's a good lesson for you. So up in here, you can see that weld's kind of gross. And this one is exceptionally bad. Just no penetration to this right here. Reason being is that I didn't anticipate how tall these were going to be or how far they come into the metal, and I didn't clean the paint off that far. And then once I realized it, it was too late, and I couldn't just like cut everything apart. So the good news is I cleaned everything in here and was able to get some pretty decent welds in and around the tube. You can see, you know, that one's okay. Obviously my pattern isn't exceptional, but the penetration and the strength of the weld should be pretty dang good. Yeah, some of these are better than others for sure. I got a little bit of a pattern going on in there, but really what I learned here was I need to clean these tubes like all the way up to here, because I did it like about that far, which you can see it just globs up and it does not stick to the paint, which should be obvious to anyone who understands how welding works. But of course, live and learn. You can see I only cleaned up to here, got some good weld going along there, and obviously some start stop going on. And then this one was okay. It was pretty all right. And just, oh man, that's so disappointing, that one right there. So disappointing. But I either cut it all out and start over, or grind it down and pretend it didn't happen, which is probably the option I'm going to go with, because these guys here didn't have them before, didn't really need them, except for when I got real crazy on the rocks. And so these will still give me some added structure. But man, it's something to do better on the passenger side, for sure. On this side here, we went with a different type of gusset. These ones are going to be on the bottom rather than following the side of the pipe or of the tube here. And I just like it better. It's a lot cleaner. It was a lot easier to weld. So these, very, very cool. Some of the welds are okay. Some are less okay. But it is very, very full of weld. All sides. Not so much that I'm worried about strength, but more so I'm worried about corrosion getting in between components. Yeah, big fat weld on there. This one I think looks pretty decent. I'm going through and I'm sandblasting some of the frame. Just anywhere where the paint's chipping off. See, I sandblasted right here. The paint held really nice. So anyway, we're going in here. Really no rust on this thing at all. This is underneath the bump stop. Common rust area, no problem. This is underneath the little bump stop. Also, common rust area, no problems here. I did grind off some of this and then expose some metal and re-weld, so it's actually got penetration. The welds still aren't terribly pretty, but oh well. This is important though. So these are your threaded inserts for your skid plate. There's 3 of them on each side. And they go in and they weld here and there, and that is it. And 3 of the 6 of mine broke on the other frame. So on this one, I went in and I welded all the way around. Granted, on mine, it's actually, some of it was the inner piece here that broke, not the outer here. So some, they did break out here. So this helps, but you still run the risk of breaking off on the interior. But hey, you know what? I got a welder. I got time, so let's do that. This guy has a lot to be desired. It's very thick, but it's also kind of rusty, so we'll figure out what to do with paint there. And yeah, so it's getting ready for paint. The frame's been painted over here. It looks pretty dang good. A little dirty right now, but looks very nice. But over here, we're going to do a modification to the frame before we paint. So on the old frame, you got your leaf spring shackle mount here, and below it, it rotted out really bad, because what happens is all of this gunk and dirt comes in through this hole and through this hole. It all comes down and then it pools right down in here, and it just rots these out so bad. So on my patch panels that I had bought for that frame, anticipating to patch it, I realized that they had cut a hole right here, right below the shackle mount. And so I did that right here, and I did it before paint so I can make sure to get a lot of good paint on that raw metal. But this is a 3/4 inch hole. It's just the biggest drill bit that I had. I want to make sure that everything that comes in through here is able to exit through here. So I got a nice big hole. You could even just cut out a huge box, but keep in mind this is a nice structural area. For the most part, it's going to get a lot of strength from up here, so you can take a lot out. But definitely a good idea to get a hole in here so all of that gunk can come back out. Also, I think we might take a little bit of weld and just fill this gap here too, because I can see a little bit of crevice corrosion possibly starting in that area. So when we bring the welder over, we'll just fill this up so you don't have gunk getting up into this little corner here as well. Okay, we're going to talk about one last rust area, and that is right here. So this guy here was really the only spot on the whole frame that had any real rust at all, and it's because this area between the frame and the shock mount is just open. And you can see there's like a rock stuck in there. I need to get that out of there. And I got this hole down here. You probably won't have that. That's for an extension that I'm going to be putting on here that you probably won't have. But you can see that there's a little bit of corrosion all up in there. And on the other side, same basic deal, right? So what we're going to do is you can cut a hole here to allow it to drain out. That's a pretty good option, except mine goes all the way into my frame, so that's kind of a bad option. You can fill this with some kind of body filler, or you can do what I'm about to do, which was cheaper because I already had the piece of steel. And you can fit this up in here like so, and then that is going to have the water kind of drain out this way. And that should be pretty elegant. Now this is really easy to do. I shoved a piece of cardboard in here and got the shape, and then I cut this out, and it's a thinner piece of steel, so I just put it in and I beat it down with a hammer pretty good, and now it's got that same curvature like that. And that's it. So we're just going to weld that in place. We're going to make sure the welds are relatively seamless, and yeah, should be pretty good. Let's take a look at how that turned out. So some of the welds are okay at best, but I found out it's really hard to get the tip of the welder in here. Who knew? But what I like about it is water comes in, hits here, it's gonna slide down. It'll probably pool here. It'll probably cause problems pooling here in the future, but you know what? This is a lot better than pooling down right in there and rotting out this guy and this guy. So, I don't know, not too bad. Pretty solid, pretty permanent little solution there. Look at the other side. Their side looks pretty good as well. And yeah, I did my best to fill these corners. There's a lot of weld that went into that, and that's why I didn't do these here, because it's pretty big, and to fill it was taking a lot of wire. So whatever. Yay. Okay, here's our status update. We are preparing to put the frame in. Frame is out there, it's all done, it's ready to go in. And so we've got these inserts here, these sleeves that go on the inside of the frame. And I'm going to choose to put them on the stationary side because I just feel like it's going to be easier. And so what I've done is taken a lot of measurements, and then over here I have cut a hole, and this is for like a plug type weld. And I don't think you're supposed to drill the hole all the way through, but The reason why I did that is because I have a bolt here, and when I'm putting the other frame member in, I don't want this to go back too far because I don't get any on the rest of the frame. So I want it to go to that line right there, and I'm going to use this screw, or this bolt, sorry, right there, and that's going to keep it in place. But it's not going to keep it in place very rigidly because I need this to build a wiggle for me to get everything to seat right away. So this is, it's not going to go back any further than that, but it also can move quite a bit. And then I can pull this guy out when we're all said and done, and we can start filling that area with weld.
Now I know what you're thinking. Furniture dollies and a bunch of blocks of wood? Really? Well, yeah, in the absence of having 3 floor jacks or something equivalent, this is what we got. And with enough finagling, it totally went into place, so no complaints here. You will also notice that the gas tank has been reinstalled with a brand new skid plate. There's a future video probably coming out after this one that's going to be covering how we made that skid plate. You're not going to want to miss that video because it involves me going over to Unofficial Use Only and Greg teaches me how to make one from scratch. It's a good time.
Now, we just gotta weld it.
Nice.
Let's take a look at how some of these welds turned out. Ready. Good position here. So you can see here it's okay, a lot of starting and stopping, but I got good penetration all the way through to that sleeve on the inside, so that's pretty exciting. This ugly duck right here is the hole I drilled through for the plug weld, and I just filled it up real good. We'll just be grinding that down. You can see here there was another one. He's already been ground down. Along the bottom, not too bad. You can see there's the inside of the frame, pretty similar. Got the plug as well as the seam. And yeah, I think it's gonna work pretty well, honestly. And here we are after some grinding. So the idea here is that you don't see right away that the frame has been spliced at this location after it's been painted. Also, just to keep the small crevices to a minimum because those attract rust. So yeah, a little bit better. Then we paint it, and that's the whole process. Okay, I shouldn't be doing this, but the exhaust is removed because I needed room for my little frame project here. And so we're gonna hear what the 4-cylinder sounds like with open headers, because why not?
my gosh, that's loud. I'm so sorry. All right, that's all.
Okay, so this side actually, I think turned out pretty well. I had really good penetration with the weld, going all the way into that sleeve and into the two materials. The one thing I will note is I got a little off course and there's a couple holes here. So I'm gonna have to fill those in before I paint. But what I'm doing is on the inside of the frame, I'm not grinding down the weld like at all. And the reason being is I like to document my weld capability throughout time. So on the inside of the frame, I'm going to leave it like this, so later on I can look at this and go, oh, okay, that's how good at welding I was then. And hopefully when I say that, I'm referring to myself being better in the future. But you know, yeah, that's where we're at. So I'm going to throw a couple quick welds on there and paint it. Let's go around to the other side real quick, which has been painted. And so here you can see there's the weld. I think this one's a little bit less pretty. This here, by the way, is the leaf spring mount, the factory one that's been cut off, and I now have the shackle reversal kit. So these are cut off and just kind of little artifacts left on there from that modification, but that's fine. So yeah, this is what it's gonna look like in the end here. Just some weld that's been painted. Yeah, fuel lines are all in and tidy. It's good stuff.
And for whatever reason, the video ends kind of abruptly right there. Probably because I got distracted renovating our kitchen and working on the Commando and planning for the backyard overland tour. But I did put the Wrangler back together. It's awesome. I absolutely love the new frame. Very solid, no complications, and it has been on quite a few adventures since. Its maiden voyage was to the annual Jeep Blessing in Michigan, a trip that I took my mom on, and we had a really good time.
Okay, you're gonna drive the hardest course out here, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's going to be really tough. I'm probably going to break the Jeep.
Yep.
And Liam's just going to fix it after that. But yeah.
Yeah. A lot of rollovers, high
Yep.
wheel
I
spin.
might die. I usually might die.
All right, let's do it.
Bye, world. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. I'm not exaggerating right now.
As I mentioned before, the next video in this mini-series is working on that skid plate that covers the gas tank. So tune in for the next video where we show you how to make one from some steel plate. As always, like, share, and subscribe.